1 minute ago, a classified document hit the desk of every major financial institution in the world. A secret deal worth $12 trillion. A deal so big it makes every trade you have ever made look like pocket change. And if you hold silver, if you have been watching the markets twist and turn, this deal is about to flip the entire game upside down. This isn't rumors. This isn't speculation. This is happening right now while you are watching this video. The world's biggest players are sitting in rooms making decisions that will either make you rich or crush your portfolio into dust. And by the time this video ends, you are going to know exactly what is happening, why it matters, and more importantly, what you need to do before the markets open tomorrow. But first, we need to rewind the clock. We need to go back and understand how we got here. Because this deal didn't come out of nowhere. It has been building for months. Go back to late 2025. Silver was on fire. It climbed from $32 all the way to $121. If you bought in early, you felt untouchable. You felt like a genius. People were making more money in 6 months than they made in the last 10 years. Gold hit $5,600. Central banks were buying like the apocalypse was coming. The narrative was simple. The dollar is dying. The world is changing. BRICS is the future. Buy hard assets. Stack silver. Get rich. And for a while, the story worked perfectly. Russia and China were doing 90% of their trade without touching a single US dollar. India was buying gold by the ton. Saudi Arabia was whispering about pricing oil in yuan. It felt like the whole world was turning its back on America. It felt like we were watching history happen in real time. But here's the thing about markets. When a story feels too perfect, when everyone agrees, when it feels like free money, that is usually the moment right before the trapdoor opens. January 30th, 2026. That was the day the floor fell out. Silver crashed 37% in 48 hours. It went from $121 down to $76. Gold dropped over $1,000. People lost their minds. Margin calls went out. Traders who were leveraged got liquidated. Fortunes evaporated overnight. If you were holding silver that week, you know exactly what I am talking about. You know the sick feeling in your stomach when you refresh your portfolio and see nothing but red. You know the sleepless nights wondering if you should sell or if you should hold. Most people had no idea why it happened. They thought it was manipulation. They thought it was the big banks attacking. They thought it was a rug pull. But the real reason, the actual reason, was happening behind closed doors in Moscow. While everyone was celebrating the death of the dollar, Russia was quietly suffocating, and nobody saw it coming. Here is what actually happened. When Russia got kicked out of SWIFT and dumped the dollar, they ran straight into China's arms. They switched everything to the Chinese yuan. It looked genius on paper. It looked like the perfect backup plan. But the reality was a nightmare. By mid-2024, Russian banks couldn't get their hands on enough yuan to function. The overnight borrowing rate for yuan in Moscow exploded past 200%. Think about that. If you need to borrow money just to keep your business running for one single day, you are paying 200% interest. That is not a loan. That is a coffin. Then Chinese banks started ghosting Russia. Big banks like Ping An and Bank of Ningbo just stopped processing Russian payments. They looked at American sanctions and decided it wasn't worth the risk. They walked away. So Russia was stuck. They had oil. They had gas. They had resources. But they had no currency that actually worked. Payments that used to clear in 24 hours were taking 18 days. Imagine running a company and the money you earned 3 weeks ago still hasn't hit your account because the banking system is choking to death. But the delays weren't even the worst part. The worst part was the price Russia was paying for everything. China realized very quickly that Russia had burned every bridge with the West. They had nowhere else to go. And when you have zero other options, you don't get to negotiate. The person across the table owns you. China started squeezing. They forced Russia to sell oil at a 25% discount compared to what the rest of the world pays. They demanded natural gas cheaper than what Russian citizens pay inside their own country. And then in January 2026, China just stopped buying Russian electricity. No warning, no meeting, they just hung up the phone. This is when Russia's leaders realized they had made a catastrophic mistake. They thought they were escaping American control, but they didn't get freedom. They just traded one boss for another. They fired Washington and hired Beijing. Except Beijing is a way tougher boss. By early 2026, the Russian economy wasn't slowing down. It was slamming into a brick wall at full speed. Official inflation was listed at 6%. That was a lie. Real inflation was running closer to 22%. The government jacked interest rates to 16% just to keep the system from collapsing. If you are a business and rates hit 16%, you are dead. Construction stopped. Manufacturing stopped. The only thing Russia was producing was weapons. 40% of the national budget was going to the military. The civilian economy was dying. And then the call was made. A man named Kirill Dmitriev picked up the phone. He runs Russia's sovereign wealth fund. He is Putin's money guy. And he called America. He started negotiating a surrender. Not with tanks, not with soldiers, with money. A massive deal. The biggest economic proposal anyone has ever seen. $12 trillion. That number is so big it doesn't even feel real. That is 4 times the size of the entire Russian economy. Bloomberg eventually got the memo. Intelligence agencies intercepted it. And when people saw what was inside, they couldn't believe it. The deal has 7 proposals, and every single one is more shocking than the last. Proposal number 1. Russia wants to go back to the US dollar. Let that sink in. The country that spent 5 years screaming that the dollar was dead is now begging to use it again. They are waving the white flag. Proposal number 2. Airplanes. Russia's airlines are literally ripping apart old planes for spare parts because Boeing and Airbus won't sell to them anymore. They are desperate for American aviation technology. Proposal number 3. Energy partnerships. Russia is offering joint projects in Siberian gas fields and Arctic offshore drilling. They are handing America access to some of the biggest untapped energy reserves on the planet. Proposal number 4. Nuclear energy. This one is massive. Russia is offering to open up uranium supply chains. They are putting their nuclear technology on the table. This is the kind of thing countries go to war over, and Russia is offering it as a gift. Proposal number 5. Artificial intelligence. This isn't about chatbots. This is about the new arms race. Whoever wins AI controls the future of military power. Russia wants to build it together with America. Proposal number 6. Rare earth minerals. Lithium, copper, nickel, platinum. The metals inside every electric car, every smartphone, every fighter jet. Russia is sitting on mountains of this stuff, and they are offering America the shovel. And Proposal 7. This one is spicy. Russia wants to team up with the United States to crush green energy policies in Europe and China. They want to flood the world with cheap oil and gas. They know exactly who they are pitching to. They are offering a deal that sounds like music to American ears. But there is a sweetener, a cherry on top. That $300 billion of frozen Russian money sitting in European banks. The deal hints that money could become a signing bonus for the United States. Take our cash. Just let us back in. That is 300 billion reasons for Washington to say yes. Now here is what you need to understand. This deal is a wedge. If America shakes hands with Russia on energy, why would America care about European sanctions anymore? Russia is trying to break the alliance. They are trying to split the West right down the middle. And it might actually work. So what does this mean for your silver? This is the part most people are getting completely wrong. When the news broke, silver dropped hard. It fell from $83 to $74 in an hour. People panicked. They thought the bull run was over. They thought the game was finished. And I am not going to lie to you. In the short term, this is bad for metals. If Russia starts using dollars again, that creates demand for the dollar. A strong dollar usually pushes gold and silver down. Plus, the whole BRICS narrative just took a massive hit. That was the emotional fuel for the rally. People bought silver because they thought the dollar was ending. Now that story is wounded. But here is what I actually think. And I need you to lock in because this is critical. Silver already crashed from $121 down to $76. That is a 37% drop. That is brutal. That is blood in the streets. But when I look at silver at $70 or $80, I don't see panic. I see opportunity. Markets are messy. Silver might chop around. It might even dip lower. But when I zoom out, the fundamentals have not changed one bit. Here is the math that no secret Russian deal can erase. Silver has been in a supply deficit for 3 straight years. Last year we used more than we mined. We pulled 1.03 billion ounces out of the ground. We consumed 1.2 billion. That is a gap of almost 200 million ounces. We are burning through silver faster than we can replace it. That math doesn't care about Vladimir Putin. That math doesn't care about the Kremlin. That math just keeps compounding. Silver is in everything. It is in solar panels. It is in electric cars. It is in missiles being fired in Ukraine right now. Every EV uses up to 50 grams of silver. Every solar panel uses 20 grams. The world is building more of these things, not less. AI data centers need silver. 5G networks need silver. Medical equipment needs silver. That demand is not going away just because Russia wants to use dollars for oil trades. And here is something wild that almost nobody is talking about. Physical silver is vanishing. The big 1,000-ounce bars sitting in London and New York vaults are disappearing. The inventories are shrinking. The spread between the paper price on your screen and the real price you pay for a physical coin keeps getting wider. That is not normal. When paper says one thing and physical says another, it means the system is breaking. And when that system finally snaps, the price is going to explode. Central banks know this. China just bought gold for the 16th month in a row. India isn't stopping. They bought over 900 million ounces of silver in the last 5 years. These aren't retail investors, these are nations. Why? Because you can freeze a bank account, you can sanction a wire transfer, but you cannot freeze a bar of silver. You cannot print metal out of thin air. And here is the part that blew my mind when I found it. Russia. The same country begging America for dollars. The same country offering a $12 trillion surrender. That same country has quietly been stacking silver. They added $535 million worth to their strategic reserves. They have a multi-year plan to keep buying. Think about the irony. In public, they are saying, please let us back into your banking system. But in private, they are hoarding hard assets. They are building a bunker. This tells you everything. Russia doesn't think the dollar is safe long term. They are playing a double game. They want the dollar for trade because they have no choice, but they want metal for protection. The dollar is useful, but metal is insurance, and every other country in the world is watching. China watched America freeze $300 billion. India watched. Saudi Arabia watched. They saw the dollar turn into a weapon. And that fear doesn't just disappear because Russia surrendered. That fear is exactly why central banks keep stacking gold and silver. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You are coping. The rally is over, the top is in. And look, if that is what you believe, I respect it. But answer me this. America has $38 trillion in debt. That number is not shrinking. Whatever happens with Russia, that debt keeps growing. And at some point the math catches up. When it does, gold and silver are the only assets that survive. That is not my opinion. That is 5,000 years of history. And honestly, this Russian deal is just a proposal. There is a huge gap between talking and signing. Russia needs sanctions lifted. Europe has to agree. The war in Ukraine has to end. None of that happens overnight. This could take years. Or it could fall apart next week. So here is the truth. Short term, expect noise. Expect scary headlines. Expect dips. That is how they shake out weak hands. They want your silver cheap. But zoom out. Look at the supply deficit. Look at the demand curve. Look at central banks buying while they smile and shake hands with America. Every major correction in history was followed by higher highs. The people who panicked always regretted it. The people who stayed calm were glad they did. JP Morgan just released a forecast. They see gold hitting 6,300 by end of year. Goldman says 5,400. UBS says 6,200. These aren't bloggers. These are the guys who move billions. And after gold crashed from 5,600 to 4,400, it bounced right back. Why? Because real money knows a sale when it sees one. This is the bottom line. Russia running back to the dollar doesn't prove the dollar is safe, it proves the dollar is a weapon. And every country on earth just got reminded of that fact. The war for the future of money is not over. The dollar won a battle. But the war is long. And physical silver is the only asset no government can destroy. So here is my question for you. Are you folding and selling? Or are you doubling down and buying the blood in the streets? Go down to the comments right now and tell me. Buying or selling? I read every single one and I will pin the best answers. If this video opened your eyes to what is really happening, hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it pushes this past the algorithm so more people can see the truth. But do not click off yet. Because while everyone is staring at Russia, there is a much bigger bomb ticking right here at home. I am talking about the $38 trillion debt that no deal can fix. I recorded a video that shows you the exact moment this explodes and what it does to silver. You need to see it before tomorrow. Click the video on your screen right now. I will see you there. This is OG John. Stay sharp.